Take two.
And rolling.
Okay. Nothing going on here. Okay. So, welcome back. Oh, a little inside joke at the beginning about Rumi. And reminded me of doing several takes of video. I videotape lectures for an online class I teach, and they're anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes long, and today I had to redo it like 3 times. In fact, it is still not done, and they usually go up today, and it's just not done, because I would mess up right towards the end, and then I would go, I can't say that. This is going out like to the whole state, you know. This is, people in Raleigh and Wilmington are taking this class. It's like, do it again, redo it, and
you don't have facilities to edit.
It's just, I'm getting good at that. But so let's open today with. Centering, like we did a few weeks ago. Let's just bring ourselves in and be here, be present, and set your intention for the class. And just breathe. And what is known is that there is one life, one love, one power that flows through and in everything. And this life is in me now. And I know that the power and the love of God is within each and every one of us here this evening. I'm so grateful that we are here, that with the sharing and the learning and the love that comes up and flows through us is truly, truly a magnificent gift. And I'm grateful for that, and knowing that we share exactly what we need to do. We share exactly what we know. We share exactly who we are, and we are present here, and we are present now. We release this into the divine law, knowing that it is true, and together we say,
and so it is.
Thank you. So I'm going to sit in a minute, but my energy is really high. So there's a couple of things that we need to cover. And one is next week. I'm going to be gone for what would be week 6 with Rumi. And initially, I was just going to, you know, kind of, hey, throw you into the sanctuary and have you watch, you know, the Rumi video and all of that, which I ordered and I have. And then Lissa, who I had initially asked if she wanted to do something that week when I was gone, came up and said she would like to, that, you know, she realized that she would appreciate that. So she's going to come in at 8 and talk to you about what she would like to do next week, and give you a little handout about how she sees. She's going to do some experiential things. Some of the stuff that, like I mentioned earlier, Barbara had said, no blackmail here, what Barbara had said was that we're going, you know, that we go really deep here, and that's true. And what Lissa is going, we're going to continue in 4 and 5 tonight. We're going to finish this piece out. And then Lissa's going to take it into, how do you take what we've done and do that on a daily basis? Who are you when you're in Walmart? Type of thing. And a little bit more than that. That's just it in a nutshell. And then when I come back at 7, because I realized that though I don't know Rumi and I don't actually, you know, dismiss him, that is obviously something that's staring me in the face. So I need to learn Rumi too. So I'm going to dive in with all of you and explore Rumi. We're going to watch his video together and have a discussion. And on week 7 that would be. So does everyone agree? Is everyone good with that?
Yep, sure.
I mean, is there any concern about that? Okay. So then, let's see. That. Okay. So I also asked you, and we're going to make time. So Lissa's going to come in at 8. She's upstairs in the practitioner training. So when they break, she's going to come in here. So we'll break like at 1:45, or 10:45 in there, and then come back at 8 to meet with Lissa, so that she can have those few minutes with you. That she's on break, we'll just offset it that way. And then there was one other thing. Oh, I had asked you to do like a critique or what you would like to see out of the second half of the class. So it's going to change a little bit. So we're going to do Rumi in 7, but then after that, you know, how can you see it changing those last 3 weeks that maybe we haven't hit on, or something you would like to touch on? And then with that, we are going to sign up tonight for the project presentations for the individual mystics that hopefully each of you have chosen to talk for a few minutes about, and introduce us to why they're a mystic and who they are and what they've done. And it could be anyone, that from that long list that's in the student workbook to some contemporary people that are not mentioned in there. Like I think Mark Nepo is fairly mystic, and he's not on that list. So neither are several other contemporary people. So any questions about where we're going and where we're headed? Okay, today. So today I would like, I'm sitting, is it going to matter? No, because I'm 5'1" is what I hear.
You're in focus. I'm going to take it down just a tad.
So what I'd like to know first, while we're in this nice circle, is how's your centering, daily reflections, meditation, journaling stuff going? And with that, self-treatments. Are you treating for yourself when something comes up? How are
Yes.
things going? Are you having, any revelations about who you are and how you practice who you are in the world right now? Yeah, B.
I'm having quite a challenge. I think that this, what's happened this past week, I got a cold. I haven't had a cold in 20 years. So I was thinking to myself, okay, what's going on here? And I realized that I stopped studying. It's not that there's a resistance, but something obviously is resisting. And I had been in such a high with the class, and then this sort of drop. So it was interesting. I did not beat myself up. I've allowed myself just to be where I am right now. And I took up the study again this morning, and everything is coming back. But for some reason, I needed some days. I don't know whether it's just sinking in, because I haven't lost anything. In the past, I would say, oh, well, it comes and it goes, or I beat myself up. I don't practice enough. I don't do it every day, yeah. So it's just I'm just sitting with it the way it is. But I feel that I am moving forward, even though it would appear that I'm just sitting right now.
Right. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Any interesting observations about yourself or reflections, realizations?
I had a cool thing come up in the reading. When I was reading Goldsmith, he says when you do treatment, don't use the person's name. And I put question marks all along that, and I didn't get it until the very last paragraph. And it says you turn from that person and from that problem. But I always...
We're taught to use the person's name.
Right,
Yeah.
so that was a crazy thing. I had to really think about that for a minute.
Right. Did anyone else catch that or want to talk about that? It's again going back to that whole thing we just went through with, you know, with all of it, with Holmes. It's like, when do we turn from the condition? When do we give them our attention? When do we name the person whose hands we're holding? And all of that, and everyone has a different thing. In their original Science of Mind in chapter 2, Holmes also says, what does he say? Wait, it's in my head right now. And it was right there and now it's gone. Holmes also says that oh man, it's like gone. Yeah, no, you know, but it's
using names.
Pardon?
Using the person's names personalizes it.
Right, yeah, well, we know that, but he doesn't actually say that in here. But he does, he differs a little bit. Oh, I know what it is. He says that we all have different methods. And actually, Goldsmith also says to create a specific formula takes us away from the primary purpose. And so you want to remember that although we have these 5 steps of treatment, they're really to help us center, that they're not necessarily...
So they're basic guidelines as opposed to exact formulas.
Yes, exactly that. They're guidelines. And to help us remember the purpose of what we're doing. And so Holmes talks about that in chapter 2 in this. He talks about it in that, and then everyone's got different methods coming from different faiths. So it's where you are. It's what resonates with you as a mystic, because that is what you are and who you are. So how you reach out to heal is the key. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that help?
Yes.
I know you had already probably gotten to that, but I wanted to walk it
Oh, I
through
figured
from
it out on
own
my
mind.
own, but doggone, it was cool that he wrote it the way he did. And I haven't been as much a fan of him as I have been Nepo, but this week Goldsmith was...
What page is that on?
88
88.
into 89.
Okay. So, anyone else? Anything, any insights or revelations? Questions, growth? Yeah.
Well, you asked about treating for ourselves, and I have the most difficult time to go through a complete treatment because I get centered, I focus on God is all there is, and I get lost in there, and then I'm able to attempt to make the transition to I am God, I am part of all that there is, all that there is through me, and then nothing else matters. So I just I lose no interest in continue treating for anything because it just I lose interest in trying to focus on whatever I perceived the thing was
Right.
I was going to treat for.
Right.
It's been interesting.
Then how do you end your meditation or your treatment?
With gratitude,
With gratitude?
to
Yeah.
know what I know,
Right.
but
I think,
I don't know, part of me would like to
actually have an issue to point out.
well, to follow through with the issue, that I certainly believe I have some issues, but they just, when I'm in the moment, they don't seem to matter anymore, or they seem trivial.
What about when you're writing? When you write out
Writing is
treatment?
not something that I've been successful at.
What, something that John mentions on treatment when he does classes for us for treatment, he says treat for something you have already. And see how it changes, whether it gives you more of it or, but treat for something you've already got.
Like to be specific about the steps
Yeah.
and to walk
So
them
to
through.
give you more of a feeling of what results you get.
Mhm. That's a good idea, actually.
When I, sometimes, well, most of the times when I do treatment, I usually do the release, the easiest part to do. So I do the release first. Then I do gratitude because that's really where I'm going.
Right.
And then by then, I've figured out what laws or what reasons I'm going to use, you know, in the body of it. So I start the treatment at that point.
Good.
Because obviously the first two steps are easy.
Right, for some, and then others no, but, again, everyone's gonna do a treatment and, you know, that, there are some centers that still call it an affirmative prayer because they don't wanna use the word treatment, which they feel the word in itself linguistically implies that there's something wrong. And so they use affirmative prayer instead of treatment. So it's all dependent on who you are and what resonates with you. And if that's what resonates, then I would keep using that for yourself. When you work with someone else, it might be a different issue if you do work with someone else as mystic or as practitioner. A lot of you may be continuing. You don't have to just rip that sucker.
Well, it's,
So
I've still been doing the daily stuff, the reading and meditating and writing, and then I had very grand ideas on these other things that I was gonna do, and I don't know if that kinda, I still have been, I haven't missed any days. There was one day I didn't have time to write, but I just wrote extra the next day. But I don't know, it seems like I was doing so good with, I mean, I still feel really good and can tell the difference that it's making that way. But like the last few days, the meditation time it's just all these stupid things coming up. It's like, well, I should be able to do this better by now because I've been doing it for a long time, and really I feel like I've gone back to kindergarten now, and why can't I deal with these thoughts better, or at least have better thoughts, you know? Not just this mishmash that comes up that is not productive and doesn't do anything. And so that's what I've been dealing with.
okay.
But crocheting is actually very meditative.
It is, that's what I've heard.
Well,
Yes. Go ahead, Greysen.
I was just gonna say, things typically ebb and flow anyway in regards to your practice, whatever your practice is.
What were you gonna say, Drew?
On a similar thing, I'm kind of the same way. And, you know, walking your mystic path, you often get to the top of the mountain and realize you're back at a square one, but not the square one you started off at. And you're like, wow, I thought I really had a handle on everything I was doing and everything was working perfectly, and then you're back. I mean, oh. Well, either I missed something, I did something wrong, or I did something really, really right, or it just goes like that, because you get to a point, and then all of a sudden you're just absolutely lost and going, huh, you know, does anybody ever, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Breezy's absolutely right. It's an ebb and a flow, and we take 2 steps forward, and sometimes it feels like we go back 3, but I don't believe that we actually do. I think we only maybe kind of like do a little 2-step. And that we don't actually go back because we can't. You can't go back. right? There is no more back to go to, that's gone. So we can only kind of waver right where we are and then go forward again.
Could it be
So-
that more stuff has come up?
More stuff
So it
has come
seems
up.
like you've gone backwards?
You're looking at the same issues in a different way.
Yeah.
And,
All the
you know, and all of a
perspectives.
sudden, it's kind of like new things are coming up. I'm with B this last weekend. Saturday night, I was like, all of a sudden, I'm out at this party, and all of a sudden, I start getting this horrible earache, and I could feel it start going down into my throat. And it was like Sunday. I wasn't here on Sunday, you know, for the different reasons, you know, all of those. I need to save that, you know, but I don't know. And I thought, okay, what do I really believe? And it's the first time that I've actually taken myself to the mirror and looked at myself, and I looked sick, and I just said, what? But that is an illusion. And so what is it that I really believe? What is it that I really believe? Because if I believe this about me, then if I'm looking in the mirror, and I also believe that I am a perfect divine reflection of spirit, then that's just an illusion. And so I just kept telling myself that. I took a long hot bath, I drank tea, I took plenty of aspirin and Alka-Seltzer Cold Plus, because the truth is I believe in those things too, right? That's what helps me, and spirit helps me as well. Monday morning I woke up and I thought, I gotta call in, and then we're on another snow delay. And by the time I actually got up and got moving, I was fine. And it was like, yay for the snow delay, yay. Because I'm good. I'm just good, yeah.
I think as listening to everybody talk, really today I read The Goldsmith, and what really jumped out at me, and maybe that's part of the reason for all this, was that if either I believe and I know and I realize that I am a spiritual being in a spiritual universe, or I don't.
Right.
You know, I can't play the, oh, you know, I got a cold, I'm a human, I'm matter, I'm falling to pieces, and I'm a spiritual being in a spiritual universe. So it's kind of, it really highlighted for me, I've got to choose, and it's solely up to me to decide which path I'm going to follow. So I found him, and then his treatments, specifically the one on you need to see everybody as absolutely a spiritual being, perfect in all the qualities, no matter what. And that's what is the real work of this. It's not easy.
No.
And it is so easy to slide back and say, oh, frickin', as Barbara would say, my crazy neighbor or this.
Yeah.
And he said, start with your neighbors. Start
Right.
one by one with your neighbors. So I started doing that this afternoon, and that's why I'm here tonight, instead of staying in bed.
That's right. I was going to go there as well. So again, another one of those perfect segues. I love consciousness mind, this whole mind thing. And because if we're really striving to believe that when we step out of our front door, we need to really believe that about everything and everyone. And then bring it back home to us. So that's the question. What's happened? Have you followed your intuition lately? Are you in the daily practices? Are you getting hits and things, and are you following them? Cheryl took one hit all the way to Chicago.
Actually, I had some interesting things happen about that. They went to Chicago this past weekend, and I had some challenges come up, but everything fell into place as well as it could be. Like my initial flight was delayed, which made my connecting flight really close. But when we landed and I got off at the gate, there was one of those carts waiting there. And so I was able to take the cart onto the next gate, and with a little running, I made it to the connecting flight with 2 or 3 minutes left, which I would have never done if that cart hadn't been sitting there waiting. And then there was this other thing. It's really bizarre, but they have these tolls. They're toll roads, and they only take either Easy Pass, which I didn't have, or change. And there's no person there. You need change. And they don't take dollar bills, and they don't give you change. You need change. So I knew that, but what I didn't realize was there was actually 2 tolls on this road, and so I only had enough change for the 1 toll. And so when I pulled up to the other toll, I needed $1.50, and I only had 75 cents. And so I had, as I was pulling up, I saw in the other lane, there was a car stopped, and the gentleman had got out, and he had walked back to the car behind him, and I thought, what the heck is he doing? And so when I pulled up, I'm like, I know what he was doing. He got out, and he walked back to the car behind him, and he asked if he had any change. And so that's what I ended up doing. I took a $1 bill out of it, and I walked to the lady behind me, and of course there's traffic behind me, blowing the horn and all this stuff because I'm stopped in the lane. I said, you don't happen to have any extra? She's there pulling out her dimes and her pennies and all this stuff, and we're standing, and she gave me enough change, and I could go through, and it worked. And it was just, yeah, it was amazing. So, and I just totally ignored all the horn blowing and all of that stuff, and it was just amazing how everything fell into place. So yeah, that was different.
Great. Yeah, good. Anyone else follow any kind of hits and what happened? Yeah.
My mother had a bowel obstruction and went into the hospital, and she's 81. Let me preface that by saying that she's my best friend in all the world. Mm-hmm. And I had to stay centered in truth, but my first instinct was to get in the car and go. So I actually got in the car and took off to go to St. Louis. And then partially there I was treating and doing all that, and it hit me, I don't need to go. So I turned around and came home. And she didn't have to have surgery, and she's fine. But there was a process of listening. It's okay, you can go home, she's fine.
Good.
And she's fine.
Yes. Great. That's a good one. Anyone else?
I did kind of a similar thing with my mom. She had a heart cath, and she was worried about it. They talked about something about aneurysms, but they couldn't find anything. They didn't mention anything. So apparently the medical science is incorrect. But she came through it. I mean, you know, heart caths are no fun. I just knew that I'm like, no, one, at this point I'm not able to go, and it's not going to be necessary anyway. So I kept treating for myself, and just knowing that I'm not going to allow myself to be in that emotional space. I wouldn't normally say head space, but it's all basically coming through your heart anyway. Right. Allow myself to be that emotional space of, oh, woe is me, or oh, panic, or this. Everything's going to be fine. And treating for it, and doing this. And so what I normally would have done is completely different than what I did. And everything turned out to be even better than it was. So.
Okay. Anyone else this week? Spontaneous intuition combustions? That's what it feels like to me when I follow mine, and it's like boom, little internal bombs going on. I love them. No? So it's all in how we listen, right? It's all in how we listen to ourselves, which is what Nepo was talking about this week. And so, what has listening done for you? Who's that? I couldn't see your face. You can come in.
Hi. Sorry.
That's all right.
I couldn't make it, Mountain.
What's happening?
We're trying to get food in here. Yeah, I see it. Come on in. Sorry.
Yay, food!
Hey, you.
Oh, it's not for us?
It's for anybody who just wanted out.
Did that spill out there?
Yeah, some of it did.
Okay, Bliss is gonna be happy.
And there you go, someone was probably thinking, well, I wonder if there would be some food.
So, we're talking about listening right now, and so how have you been listening? How has listening been working for you? How have you listened to yourself intuitively, like listen to that voice within, but also, how do you listen? How do you listen, and how do you listen to what's not being said, but you know what the truth is? Does that make sense? How do you do that? How have you done that? Because that's about where we are right now. You're going to start taking this out into the world, you already are, but how are you listening to people? How are you letting that intuitive voice talk to you? Yeah.
Well, I always try, especially if it's somebody who says something that I disagree with or I find offensive. I try and wait a beat and like, well, where is that coming from? I mean, you know, did they actually mean it the way they said it, or is there something else going on? As opposed to reacting, you know.
Right. Okay, so there's listening and acting versus reacting.
Yeah.
Anyone else? You know, I'm a communications professor, so in a minute I'm just going to jump up and start writing on the board. I will. Yeah.
For me, it's, this week it's trying to notice when it's my mind as opposed to it coming out of this place. I don't know what it is, but it's a silent place within me, so it's pausing before I open my mouth.
Right.
And switching from my mind to this other place.
Right.
And then usually what comes out or what inspires me moves me forward instead of something else.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've been listening to myself when sometimes it's hard for me to get going to the gym. And so I felt like, well, the steam bath would help. But once I got to the steam bath, the rest of the gym went easy.
The rest what?
The rest went easy. I went ahead and exercised, but
Right.
I think I just I wanted to go, and I just needed a reason other than
Right. To listen to yourself, like,
Yeah.
I should go?
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it's often easier to, you know, because it's such a spiritual thing, how do you listen to what's not being said? But there's a reason why it's difficult to listen to what's not being said. And is it okay if I get a little academic on you? Because I don't have to, I can go at it another way, but this is the easiest. I'm going to jump up. So there's two things about listening that are important, and they lend themselves to what's called critical listening. And the first one is this concept that we listen or don't listen to people, but there's three qualities to listening that help us. And one, the most important one, is the information that the person giving us, is it credible? Right? Is just the information we're hearing, is it credible information? Or is it just their opinion? Because opinions are good if they're informed. So is it credible information? And then, is the witness credible? And that's the person that you're talking to. Is there witness credibility? Is it someone that you trust? Is there witness credibility? Or is it someone that you're talking to and you get that intuitive feeling, it's like there's something not quite right with them for some reason, that they're just, you know, there's something, you're ill at ease for some reason. There's some uneasiness. And there's that going on, and that interferes. That's just what we call in communication, that's just interference. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with the other person, it just means that there's interference. And then the last piece of that is there, does the story hang true? Is it logical? Right? Is there, are the sequence of events, does it unfold in a logical pattern? Does it make sense to you when you're listening to their story? Do you know what I mean? So when you're talking to someone, especially as a practitioner or as an active mystic, which we are, I'm hoping that you're telling yourself in prayer and treatment and reading and journaling, I am the spirit, I am the mystic, that I am like that you are, right, like we said last week. But, so is there a logical sequence of events to what they're telling you, that the person is telling you? It makes sense that this is something that they're seeking support and treatment for, that we know that they're perfect, whole, and complete, and what they've described or what they've expressed to us makes perfect sense, right? Intuitively, we know that. And these are three of those things that go there. Is the information credible? Is there witness credibility? And is it logical? In my mind, which is, you know, a trained academic mind, I'm not naturally an academic, it's all training, is I go through these things because when I hear something that doesn't resonate on a logical wavelength to me, that's when I ask my questions, right? Something's not falling into, which the other piece is called frame of reference. And so, have I talked about this before? There's 5 elements. We hear sounds all the time, right? We receive sounds all the time. You we hear sounds like this, we heard them coming in the door, we hear people sniffling, we can hear people breathing, and we filter all of that out. This sounds really academic, but the truth is it goes to these things because we do these things on a constant basis. We receive information, and as we're filtering it, we understand the sound. We understand that this sound is writing on this board. We know the sound. If we heard it somewhere else, we would know that this is writing on the board. We know that the squeak of a tennis shoe on tile. We know a door slamming. We know the difference between a gunshot and a muffler, or a police siren and a fire engine. You think you might not, but you do. And so we receive these information, we receive these sounds, which is different. We hear it as opposed to just listening because we understand it. And then we receive it, we understand it, and then what's the next one? My mind just goes down. So we remember it. Isn't that something? The one I forgot is remembering. And then we remember it, and then we place it in context. So when someone is hurt, it's the same thing. We hear the urgency in their voice. We go, oh, urgency, and then we listen to the story. We go back to the other 3 things, and we say, witness credibility, logical, is it logical? Does it hang true? All of those things. So we receive information, we understand it. We start to remember where it comes from. And this is what's called a frame of reference. And this is important because everything falls into your frame of reference. So we remember it, we evaluate it, and then we respond. And we do this constantly. Constantly. We're bombarded with pieces of sound and information, and we filter it out, and we filter it out. We evaluate it, we remember it, and we evaluate it, and that's called frame of reference. And that is how we were raised, or how it's either how we were raised, a culture which is inculturated from birth, how we learned from our parents and all of that, which is still with us, will always be with us. And then the things that we learn in here, which is acculturation, which is a different style of speaking, which is new languages, which is new words, new belief systems. So all of that, and then we respond. So when someone comes up to you and they say, oh, just for instance, oh, that guy came up and he took my money, right? And I want you to treat for prosperity and health or something, or I need more money because someone took it. You're going through all of that. So maybe the first thing in your mind is this masked gunman, right? And that's your frame of reference. And, or maybe you go, some white-collar businessman, because that's your frame of reference. Either way, that other person's money was taken by that man, whatever that man is. And so if you don't ask questions for more information, you're going to go away with your own frame of reference. But it's all one mind, right? All one consciousness. So unless we ask the questions that put us on the same level, when we have gaps in our own understanding, our response here will be a little sketchy sometimes. We'll know it if we know the truth for us, but what is the truth for someone else? And we don't know that unless we ask the questions. We can look in the mirror, have it reflected back, but the truth is that this is a process that we all go through. And that we have to go through that to get to these places. How do we listen? How do we listen to what's true? How do we listen to the reality of what someone else is telling us? We go through this process. And I love this because it helps me. I can say I listen to the wind, and I do. Does the wind talk to me? Absolutely the wind talks to me. Do I understand it all the time? No, I sure don't. Sometimes I have to say, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? And sometimes I do that to other people. What are you trying to say, right? How would that be different? What would you like it to be? Right? Because your perception of this reality is different than mine. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So if I just say I went kayaking yesterday, your frame of reference is going to put me in the color kayak, the type of ocean or lake I was on, or river, and the clothes I might be wearing, and who I might have went with, right? If I didn't fill in those blanks. So what questions would you ask if you were really interested in my kayaking trip? Right? And those are the same questions that you ask yourself about every experience you have. And as a mystic and as a practitioner, you're going to want to be able to ask those questions of the people without focusing on the issue, but you need to see what the larger scale is so that we're all on the same playing field. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's my little lecture for today. You've gotten away from it for a few weeks. So that, when we say, how do you listen? How do you listen? How do you listen? Do you get quiet? Do you listen best when you're writing? Or when you're talking with someone else? Sometimes I think I listen best when I'm actually in conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know, how do you listen best?
In response to something.
In response to something. I'm going to sit now. Okay.
I already adjusted.
So, how do you listen to what's not being said? And how do you know when it's not being said?
Body language.
Pardon?
Body language.
Nonverbal cues? Yeah, those are huge. Fran?
Actually, well, I have to feel what the person is saying.
Okay.
I mean, I work with a certain population, and a lot of what they try to say is not understandable. So I guess my intuition has to come up. or give me the answers, more so than the facts that they're giving me.
That's an excellent example.
Mm-hmm.
That's it exactly, right. Anyone else? Just want to jump in? Oh, Drew.
I think it goes back to the question that was posed earlier, you know, with the self-checking and the, I don't know, self-feeling, when you go through that and you do that, sometimes you get a little lost, and it's that the reverberations coming back. You're not even just self-checking, you're self-questioning, and you're self-answering, and some of it doesn't come back in the form of words. It comes back in feelings and intuitions and just not even a physical feeling, it's just not even just emotion, it's just something that's like an intangible, and it could be some gentle, overwhelming thing, some ravens flying, anything, just that, you know, giving you cues and clues to what's going on and where you're at, and that kind of thing. It's not easy to put in words.
Pardon?
Because it's not easy to put in words because
No, it's not.
what you get back is there is no word.
Right,
It's just feelings on different levels.
right. And that's the whole point, right, is how do we listen to that and trust that those feelings are real?
In that same line, I paraphrase back sometimes just for clarity.
Right, paraphrase back, like this is what I hear you saying
Yeah.
type thing? Yeah,
It also gives you time to think out how you're going to respond.
right. Any other comments before we take a break? Are people doing well? Okay, good. I'm glad you're well. That's great.
So what was that thing you were saying when we first heard?
It has to be.
Everyone continues to participate, and I'm going to let her have the floor.
Yeah, Kate thought it would be a good thing for me to come in, introduce myself, see the faces and the people that I've won with during the Mysticism class and at all other times, and give you a little bit of an idea on what I'm planning for next week, because we're not going to be going by the syllabus, we're not going to be using the workbooks. And what I'm calling the class is saying yes to the mystic within. And what I want to share with you is that comes directly from last week's class, where Kate had you individually doing affirmations, and then I kept seeing her sitting here, and when people finished their affirmations, it was, yes, you are, yes, you do, and so it is. And so that was where I came up with this title, Saying Yes to the Mystic Within. And my intention is that, number one, if I'm doing it, it's got to be fun, because I believe in fun. I'm not a wild woman, but... And what I have conceptualized is a 3-part program. One of the segments, and I'm not sure which order I'm going to go in, one is a very intense and wonderful meditation where you really get to experience I am love and I am loved. I mean, it's a reciprocal meditation where you're looking into each other's eyes, and it's just transformative. And I learned about it, John Waterhouse used it in the Prac 1 class I was in 2010. And it has just been a marvelous experience, and I've used it other times. The other 2 segments will be more looking at yourself, your lives, remembering when you really had that moment of grace, that moment of connection. And bringing mysticism into your daily life and how easy it is, because it really goes back to what Barbara teaches us, always pay attention. Because when we pay attention, we are right here, right now. And when we're right here and right now, there is only one. And I have some handouts If you feel that you would like to prepare for class, because you're used to preparing for class with Kate, I've come up with some suggestions. So I'm going to pass take one. But I'm not going to ban you from class if you don't come prepared. Because the fact is, I could teach it right now and you're fully prepared. This is just the teacher and me needing to do something to feel like there's a reason for me to be standing here and talking with you and meeting with you. So I'm going to quick go through this, because everybody's going to be reading it anyway. And I have to start, again, having to thank Kate for a phrase she used several times last week. All of this is going to be done in a loving sort of way. There were a couple of phrases from last week that I said, I'm using that, because I think we did that with several of your affirmations. You decided to steal it in a loving sort of way. Well, I kind of stole some stuff in a loving sort of way. The whole intent of next week is to truly celebrate the joy, the love, and the peace that each of us is, that everything is. I would ask, either from the affirmations you did last week or from a new one, come with one kind of a succinct one-sentence affirmation that we will be using at the beginning of class in kind of a wonderful, cohesive, connective kind of way. And then I've given you 3 quotes that, if you have a moment here or there, just read them and see how they resonate with you and how they might really nurture the mystic that's within us. And then I'd love it if you could bring something and share it that kind of inspires you and reminds you of that mystical connection to the infinite. It can be a quote from anyone, any source. It can be an object. It just should be of a reasonable size so that we don't have to have many people carrying it in. Or it can be music or sound that you share, that when you experience that music or sound, it transports you to that place of remembering. So any or all of it, or just come, open, and receive that which is always with us. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yay.
And enjoy the rest of this
Are there any
class.
questions before Lissa goes that I won't be able to answer? Any questions for Lissa about next week?
No, ma'am.
Great, sounds wonderful, I wish I could be here.
Yes.
We'll see you soon. All right.
And they're always, when I do this, if something comes up from tonight's class that doesn't want to wait for Kate's return, there's always going to be time for checking in and sharing. Always.
Great.
Enjoy the rest of this class.
Thank you.
I'm excited.
Thank you, Lissa.
You're welcome.
She's not that much taller than me.
No, it's just, I hit something, I can't tell which direction it's gonna go until it moves.
I think threshold classes feel, to me, they always feel a little ambiguous, like we're not really following something, but we are. What we're doing is trying to tie some of these ends up and bring it in before we start into the final, for when I get back, it'll be the final 4 classes. So, and that'll be a different feel than what we've been doing thus far. So that's why it might feel a little ambiguous tonight. When in fact it's not. I have really thought this through. So I just want to say that out loud, because originally we were going to do some deeper meditation, but I've decided to let Lissa do that so that we can take care of the other kind of businesses. This kind of where are you type of reflection. And what is it that you want to, where are your goals? If you remember from the very beginning, what was your intent for the class? What were the goals you set for yourself? Let's look at those for the next few minutes and see where you want to go. This is, that, I don't know, I guess critique is a harsh word in normal land, but in my field, when we say critique, it's always positive. It's always like this, you know, what do you want? Where do you want to go? How do you want to change what we've been doing so that we can empower or change the situation? If we need to. If we don't, then we don't. But if you look at your original goals, have you met that? Do you need to establish a new goal at this point for the second half of the class?
Well, mine's gonna be a continuation.
A continuation. Is there something that you feel like we could do differently that would help facilitate that?
It's just the way I see things, cause mine, I'll tell you what mine is. It's release judgment on self and others.
Okay.
And so it's gonna be a continuous thing as things come up that I hadn't thought about before, you know. It's just a continuous thing.
Okay. Anyone else want to share? Yeah, Brenda.
How was that presented in the first week? Because that's the only week that I missed.
Oh, we did just a centering, I believe, it's a while back now, if I don't get it accurate, someone fill in. And we just centered, I asked people to, to think about what their goals would for this class, what your intent would be in terms of growth and what would you like to achieve. What would you like to gain, really, from this as you explore yourself as a mystic? Do people actually see themselves as mystics? Do you see yourself as someone who is profound and aware?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, absolutely. I think even the mystics sometimes don't, right? I do, I believe that. Anyway, anyone else? Goal? Yeah?
I forgot when I heard it from John. Oh, it was during the new membership meeting, I think. Or maybe it was a Sunday talk. The importance of knowing your purpose in life and being able to express it in a short sentence or two. And it has always made me a little bit sad that I had no concept of that for myself. And so that my goal was to, for this class, was to find my purpose. So the way I'm going about that is just by opening up myself to all the experiences that come as they come. So whatever you do must be the right thing. So.
Okay. Have you been able to articulate definitive?
No.
How many people have gone through that process with John? Finding your life's, your purpose in life?
Well, not with John, but with other.
With someone else? Yeah. Well, the first time I heard John talk about it, I was like stunned. And I was like, I've never thought about that. And we went through this elaborate, worksheets and stuff, and I filled them out. I always take 2 of everything because I fill one out in the class and then I make copies and I do again later. And I cried and cried and cried. I could not articulate a purpose for my life. I remember that so clearly. And then I just started saying, whatever it is, the divine purpose in life, and then it'll come to me, and all of that. And I just kept doing that, knowing that it would come. And then one day I was journaling and doing that practice from August Gold, and I remember the moment I was just writing, and I went and then I started crying again because that was it. That was my divine purpose. And for me, as it got rewritten, it is to plant and facilitate seeds of interconnectedness and knowing. It's just that simple. And it's like, that's what I strive to do, like all the time, is help people know who they are and become interconnected with others. And so it's just clear as day. And I was like, I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. All I want to do is do this. And it was like, oh, Because I thought, oh, it would be teach this and do that, and it's not, it's just
However it
facilitate,
happens.
plant and facilitate seeds of interconnectedness and knowing. Anyway, and then the first thing I did was run over here and tell John, and he was like, okay. Like, whatever. Sounds good. It's really for you, right? So, okay, anyone else? Your goals?
Mine are a continuation. They've changed slightly, but they're a continuation.
Okay. Is there the question I asked Breezy, is there anything that we can do in the class that would help facilitate that? To change it up a little bit?
Maybe, for me, you know, engineer, having a set rubric, boom, 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 boom. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and having several different types or different ways to follow. This one's like very strict and rigid, and this one's like, well, just having things to pick and choose from, like, oh, I like that part of that, I'll use that, like we do with our personalities when we're drawing, you know, we're like, oh, I like that part, I'll be more like Superman or whatever, and then this way I'll be more like, so having something like that to look at and go, I mean, you know, Science of Mind has a particular way, but it may not work for everyone, you know, that kind of thing. So maybe seeing different, like, numbered rules or numbered steps in different, you know, different formats, different genres for the same thing anyway. I mean, because, you know, it's a...
Okay. I will look into that. I think that's an excellent point. People all learn differently and they see things differently.
Because some of the things in some of the rules are like, not rules, but guidelines or ways. It's fine. But it's like I didn't understand. Well, how do you get that? Well, you can do it different ways, and yeah, I need it a little bit more solid.
Okay.
Than for me.
All right. In ways of like, what?
Like say just like a treatment. Like with mine, my intention for the class was to more form my personal Tao.
Okay.
In a way of a peaceful warrior. And with everything I've learned and everything I'm studying, to not only perfect that, but perfect my personal, you know, mantra every day kind of thing that, you know, it's living in fluid, but getting it more solid form to where you're not winging it every time. I mean, as a practitioner, you basically wing it. You're doing the same stuff, but you're winging it. But sometimes it actually helps to have step 1, step 2, step 3 really solid in your mind before you go. You know, I mean, like with music.
So you liked the ones that were in here already,
right.
The visioning and the treatments, but you would like to see more so that you can kind of contrast and compare,
it's
pick and choose.
It's more of a structured base, you know, because I mean, with music you play a simple tune and then you can embellish later on when you get better. I mean, you know, so it's that kind of thing.
So are you wanting the words? Is that what you mean? Instead of coming up with your own words?
No, more of a structured format.
For the steps.
For, you know, even just for anything. I mean, to look and see, okay, well, Rumi does it this way or says it this way.
That's a good way to do it.
This person says it this way, and this is how they do it. Holmes would write it this way,
Okay.
and
like
Tolley
Old
would do
Smith.
it this way.
And
and
Waddles
would do it this way,
right.
and like, because they write differently, their personalities are different, the way they speak. It's like Waddles is more concise. You know, Holmes is more, you know, and so it congeals it more in my head.
Right, so we've been doing that
Yeah,
on a smaller,
yeah.
on a smaller level, but, you would like to actually see the charts
Yeah,
type of thing?
Yeah.
That is a great activity that you might wanna undertake.
Oh, great. Well, I'm confusing myself. Goodness.
Here's the thing, is that there are so many out there.
You didn't see it coming.
I would love to see that.
Y'all
I
are just
don't
quiet and just going,
I don't
ha, ha, ha.
actually think one really exists on that
Right.
level that you're talking about, except that, you know, there are things. And in practitioner training, we have some of those, you know, there are different faiths, different religions look at things differently, and this is how they look at it as opposed to science of mind. And so we have some of that, a little bit in prac training, but really I'm sitting here with 4 different books and 4 entirely different ways of looking at
Yeah.
things. And so it's an individual thing.
Right.
That's when Goldsmith says, if you're not studying the text, then you're not working towards a spiritual, you know, revelation, because this is where it's at. We can only expand our frame of reference by bringing in new information and acculturating ourselves to new circumstances, and that's what this is. So I totally understand what you're saying. I wish it was that easy, but your perception of what Carolyn Mice does and mine would be totally different, and I know that for a fact. Lissa's perception of this book and mine are totally different, which is why it wasn't used in this class. If Lissa had taught the class with me, this book would have been used. And it's that basic, really, but I don't resonate with that book. There's a couple of things I resonated with this book, which she has not found particularly helpful, right? And so we're going after the same thing, but we're coming at it from different directions, and so do you.
Right.
Yeah. So pick someone who resonates with you and tell us about their practice. That's what this is about, what we're going to sign up for today. And maybe that will help. And then as you look at your notes, you say, oh, Goldsmith said that, but so did Rumi in a totally different way. But we go after it in a different way.
And Wayne Dyer would explain it differently,
Dyer.
or
Eckhart Tolle or somebody.
Tolle or Hicks or
Anybody.
Yeah, I mean, but they're all saying.
Hicks is like get on a different high-flying disc.
Right. Same, different things, but they're saying the same thing, so it's just.
They are.
Well, it's all what you resonate with. Gotta just use that word. It's all what hits you, you know, what would you absorb and how, you know. So to me, I mean, even in the class, I mean, just like, you know, Breezy might do it like this way, and that's the way she feels, and I'm like, oh, that could be, you know, and we look at things and we find things that would work for us too, or, you know, that's kind of a way of cheating, I guess, but we all do it. I mean, we all do that, you know, just like growing up, personality-wise, I want to be more like that person or like this person, and take pieces and you make your own.
But why is it cheating?
Well,
Isn't that how everybody comes
that's how
up with
everyone,
them?
yeah.
I mean, you know.
Well, yeah.
Well, and gratefully, that's Science of Mind is just eclectic. It just brings in everything. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, Barbara was sitting on stage with the drum, but they had done Tibetan chimes before that, and then they had done the bowls before that, and it's like, it's such a mix of process, and so it's what works for this center, but it's not what works for other centers, you know, and so it is where you resonate.
Well, even just like even for treatment or anything else, anybody else's thing that they're doing, like their daily practice, their Tao. You know, just a rough outline of, well, there's points, it's bullet points of this is, you know, how this person does it or this person looks at it in this perspective, because with all those different perspectives, without having to sit in a room with everyone like that and talk to them at length, which would be amazing, you get a really expanded perspective. Well, you know, I don't read a lot, so I get more out of conversation than anything. So that to me would just, wow. I mean, that kind of stuff is just
Okay.
I mean, it's exponential.
Actually, I will
Yeah.
see, I'll talk to Barbara, and make sure that it's okay that we share some of the information that we got in the practitioner training, which I can't see why it wouldn't be, what I wanna make sure. And I'll have it copied so that we can look at some of that towards the end of the class in the last 3 weeks. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Looking at the different formats and methods of different practices that all come to the same point.
Because
Yeah, great.
like with Abraham or anybody else, if you really want to know what they're doing from step one to step here, even if you're just, I'm gonna follow you exactly what you do in your footsteps. You have to listen to everything they've ever put down and piece it together and go, oh, that comes
Right.
first and that comes first, and you've gotta study it at length. And I don't know if I've got that many years left in this lifetime.
If you just think about it in terms of one spiritual practice like meditation,
Right.
there's hundreds
Right.
of types of meditation or yoga postures that are done differently. You know, there's multiple types of yoga.
The same posture done differently.
Yeah, and so it's just again experiencing it, but we can see if we can't get a solid framework of some of the basics. All right, I think that's a good point. Anybody else have something like that would help you as we round out the class in that way?
I'm not opening my mouth.
Okay. Anyone else? Fran, do you have anything you'd like to see done a little differently? Well, you were in a circle, that's nice.
No, I feel like I'm doing good just opening my mouth. So,
Okay. Anyone else? Cheryl? Is there anything to help you reach kind of the goal or the intent that you set?
I don't know about that part, but what I liked last week what we did with the affirmations. I had actually forgot about it until Lisa had brought it up, but that was very powerful for me to be supported by everyone and to support everyone else. So if there's some way to do something like that again, it requires all of us to be willing to share, but it was a powerful experience. So if there's something like that again, that'd be great.
That was symmetry.
Yes.
Yeah,
That was
last week
down.
was great.
I can ditto that too.
Yeah, we were gonna actually do that again tonight. It's on here. Just because I think every day we are different and the affirmation can change in a heartbeat, you know, just to what we think we want or who we are. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I liked that too. Put that down.
Somehow I think I got out of Goldsmith something about that there isn't any correlation to the way you go about getting to someplace. And that's the reason why he said there weren't steps that you could take that you could follow to get there.
Right. He did say that. Yeah.
It's interesting because I don't know how your project's gonna come out.
I totally understand, because I'm linear in the same way that Drew is, and so obviously I wouldn't have jumped up and made all these points about communication and listening on the board. So I can totally see wanting that format, and that's been part of my own acceptance of faith. It's like knowing that it's all out there, all I have to do is seek it, and it'll be there, and then I can compare and contrast it to what I already know. And so, but this is, Science of Mind for me is the basis, right? It's what got me on my feet, so to speak. And so, 5 steps, those are the key right there. And then everything else gets compared to that for me. Just saying. Just saying. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, then it's time to sign up for the projects. Have you been thinking about who you want to talk about? Give us their little bit of their history and like, as Drew says, kind of like their format or their process of how they got to be who they are. Breezy?
Einstein.
You want to do Einstein, okay? Einstein, I have not actually thought of Einstein as a mystic before.
I've been
but
seeing
that's
more and
fine.
more of his stuff posted on Facebook,
Yeah.
under philosophy and stuff, and it's, it very much, you know.
I think
Yep.
theoretical physics proves a lot of philosophy a lot of times.
Okay. So, what feels like a comfortable presentation time to you all? Like 10 minutes? To get their history, their format down?
5 to 10, because it
5
depends
to
on how
10.
people are.
And a little like demonstration or experience? No, I'm kind of looking around at people and I can see you're like, hell no.
I can just see doing science experiments in
Like a little volcano,
Oh.
baking soda.
That's gonna take more than 5 minutes.
I just love doing that to people. People do it to me all the time, so I like doing it back. Expands your awareness. Okay,
Leave
who
the
else?
comfort zone.
Pardon?
So leave your comfort zone.
This is true. Who would you like to do?
I think I would like to do John O'Donohue.
John O'Donohue, okay.
I will be picking up some of his books tomorrow.
Okay.
And he is the person who got me started on his work softened me up to my spiritual path. So I would like to now revisit him where I am now and share his work.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And it's not necessary if you don't want to. However, unless you want to get the certificate, then it is necessary. It is the project, the capstone for the class, so to speak. So,
Mary Oliver.
Mary Oliver?
Mm-hmm. 1 L.
Mary's got 1 L.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, Brenda.
I didn't consciously pick. I was farting around in a used bookstore and I had this book jump out at me and it's Swedenborg. So I'm going to do Swedenborg.
Okay.
Because I don't know anything about him, so it's kind of cool.
Are there 2 dots over that O or no?
No.
Okay. B, yeah.
A person named Shankara, Shankara.
S-H-A-N-A-A.
K.
A-R-A.
A-K-R-A?
K-A-R-A.
K-A-R-A. Yeah, no, S-C-H.
No. S-H-A-N.
A-N.
K-A.
K-A-R-A.
R-A.
Oh, that name sounds familiar to me, Shankara. Sankara. What is that? Who is that?
His book is called The Crown Jewel of Discrimination, written around
okay.
710.
Okay, great. Sure.
It jumped out at me, and in synchronicity, it kept going, and I got in her car, and it was the conversation about him. He didn't write anything, actually. It was all dictated, apparently. Lao Tzu.
Okay. Okay, good.
St. Francis.
I love St. Francis.
Oh, yeah.
Great choice. Okay.
Oh, I can't believe you got St. Francis. I want St. Francis.
Anyone else? David, Cheryl, you guys want to do a presentation? Bree?
Yeah, I just don't know what it is yet. I do have somebody in mind.
Okay. Let me know.
I can't remember his name. But I'll
Let me
get it.
know by email or something since I won't be here next week.
Okay.
Okay.
And what is your email?
Emma Curtis
Oh, just a
Hopkins.
second. Who?
Emma Curtis Hopkins.
Oh, okay. You want to do Hopkins? Great, then I won't have to teach the class in the fall, thank you.
It'll be very short.
No pressure.
That would be great.
What are the dates for, this presentation?
We'll start them on the 8th week, 9th,
Okay.
and then hopefully we'd finish them. I can't see that people don't wanna present longer, talk longer than 5-10 minutes, so
Yeah, we
we
should
should
all
be
get
able
it
to
done in
have
1 week.
discussion and walk through them. We could start them the week I get back on the 7th week too. We could do Rumi in there and start a presentation that after the movie. Would you like to do? No,
I vote for week 8.
just talk Rumi for 2 hours, okay?
Roomy.
Rumi. I'm looking forward to it. And, all in divine plan. So, okay, great. This is exciting, isn't it? So we'll start them in the 8th week. And, like I do all of my classes at the college, we'll do it on a hallelujah basis. When you're ready to go, you just volunteer. And if you're not, we'll just keep talking about other things.
Okay.
So if you change your mind at the last minute, that's okay. Or know that we can all treat for you. It's just, we already know each other. There's nothing to be nervous about, because you can't do it wrong. You just can't do it wrong. You're talking about a mystic, right? A spiritual person. Like, we could talk about Christ all day long and it would never be wrong. Or Holmes. So that's what's cool about it. So take a couple of minutes here. Let's get quiet again. I appreciate everybody volunteering. This is going to be really good.
Before we get quiet, is there a format, is there a outline, is there a, history, quotes, impression, is there?
What do they tell us in the book?
I know anything we do is fine, I was just wondering if you have any.
Do we have any parameters we have to
Do I
follow?
have any
Well, or suggestions to make it easier.
Where is the list? Because I know there were some directions.
I just saw it.
So page 19.
What's that?
Page 19.
19. Okay. Oral report on a mystic tradition or sacred writings. Include in your report an overview of the person or the writings so students can understand the essence of your mystic. Revelations, insights, or growth you've personally experienced from doing your research. Reports will be presented in weeks 9 and 10. We're going to start at 8 because I want to be able to have an interesting celebration, a little ritual thing in 10. Plan your report for at least 5 minutes in length, which doesn't seem like quite enough time for me. But I think I'm also including the discussion and dialogue of the class. There you have it.
Okay.
History, how it affected you, what stands out about the person for you, where you think that they're pretty. Okay, great. Okay,
What?
what?
Taoism's pinnacle is non-action and nothingness. So in a sense, I'm already done. It's just, I'm like,
I think we all are really, because it's all one consciousness, one mind. Already, I know, Swedenborg, yes. So, let's quiet. And think of what your week was like, what your intent for the next day or two coming up, and what would you like your affirmation to be? Let's just take a moment and settle, and then we'll go through the same process that we did last week. when you're ready, just write your affirmation down so you remember it. Ready? Okay. I'm going to ask this time that everyone listen carefully, because if you remember, sometimes we were getting confused and it's like, yes, you are, and so it is, but, or yes, you know, oh, that is, you know, and however, so let's listen to really, because if it's about something or if it's about them, right? Yes, you are. Or maybe yes, it is, or that is the truth.
Or yes, you do. I remember
Yes,
that was
you
one of
do.
them. Yeah.
Right, so let's listen carefully and employ that tonight. What are people really saying? Okay? Who would like to go first?
Okay, I do, so then
Okay,
I can
David.
I pay better attention this day. Yeah, because I've been able to give you my affirmation. What I created, I can recreate.
Yes,
you
can. And
And
so it is. Good, well done. Well, ooh, I like that.
I'll go. I trust and let go and know that I am blessed, I am rich, and I am free.
Yes,
you are.
And yes,
And-
you are. Oh, interesting. Read it again.
I trust and let go and know that I am blessed, I am rich, and I am free.
Yes, you
Yes, you
are.
are.
Yes, you
You
are.
are. And so,
So
it is.
Well done. Yeah. Yeah, Breezy.
I am joy.
Yes,
Yes,
you
you
are.
are.
And so it is. Okay, now,
Okay.
little enthusiasm, cohesion.
I
There's a lot of energy already, isn't there?
I don't have the words exactly right for what was in my head, but I know what it's supposed to mean, so. I am strong and faithful enough to surrender control to the all-knowing of the universe.
Yes, you are. And so it is.
That was pretty articulate.
Yeah.
That's good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I see past appearance. I am open to the divine in every experience.
Yes,
you are. And so it is.
Mine is, my choices are clear and supported financially.
Yes, they are. And so it is.
Yeah, read.
I am conscious of Spirit's perfect action in everything I think, do, and say, and in everyone and everything I encounter this week.
Yes, you are. And so it is.
I think the hands are important too, the hand.
Yeah.
Oh, me.
Or Fran, or Michael.
I will fearlessly be present in feeling deeply during my time with my family.
Yes, you will, and so it is.
Gotta do the hands are important.
Oh, the hands.
The jazz hands.
The jazz hands. I think these are jazz hands.
These are front jazz hands.
Front jazz.
He's priming us for his.
I know.
Fran or Drew, Drew?
I give credence to my personal intuitions, knowing they are spirit gifts.
Yes, you do, and so it is.
It's the hands. It's the hands. I know.
Drew.
I am healthy, wealthy, and brave. I am blessed and happy. All my intentions are attained with ease.
Yes, you are, and so it is.
And yes, and you are, and they are.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
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 Well
What a
done.
paradox.
I love that. That's a great thing. I'm going to use that.
Was that planned, or did it just like happen one day?
Pardon?
The whole thing with the.
Last week, it's kind of, I've taken things and I've made them our own in the class. And so it kind of started as something from Carolyn Mines. And then I changed it, like I have most things that I do. Because Barbara gave me carte blanche.
You started a fad now.
Yeah, I think it's great. Yes, I do. Okay, the offering. So one thing I did realize was in my resistance to the videotaping that people are watching them, and Barbara has gotten comments from people around, and that I have not been inclusive of our audience. And so I hope that you turn in next week for Lissa Rowe. I'll be gone. And
Can't we
there
just
you
bless
go.
them?
So
Did you want to?
no,
Okay, just checking.
because you know they can always go to the website. They're at the website actually. So we'll do the offering, and I'll do a blessing, and then if you don't mind, if you would do our closing benediction, I'd really appreciate your presence and you doing that with us. So just hold that in, your offering, but also know your offering is that which is spirit, and that spirit is within everything, and it is in everyone, as we've experienced here tonight. That love comes in and goes back out and benefits us all as we are on our path. And I know that any money, any financial opportunity is only joy in form, and that it's the energy that counts. It is the energy that is love, and that energy is here now. And I am so blessed, and so it is.
And so it is.
And thank you for this, and thank you for the love that is shared, and our closing benediction.
You think we can hold hands or be in a circle, or?
Certainly.
It's okay with you guys?
I don't know if people's arms are long enough with those guys over there.
Totally got it.
I'm talking about Fran and Kate.
Get in front. Okay.
Yeah, let's just get in front of it.
All right.
Move this around.
All right. There. Good.
So I am so deeply grateful for this group, for this center, for this place, for the teachings, for Kate, for every person who steps up and shares, and for everything that I experience in this class each week. I am grateful that God unfolds perfectly in this class, as each one of us. And I know that this perfection, this divine beingness that is within each and every one of us goes forth this week out into the world and spreads joy, spreads love. We walk around as mystics in the world and we can't help but change it because this is the truth of who we are in the world. And I am so deeply grateful, and so it is.
So it is. Thank you. Oh, I know your circulation is.